Well, hello. This is Randy Swaim, the president and founder of Coaching for Relevance, and one of our podcasts here for this time. Want to welcome any that are watching and attending and listening to it and being a part. And I just appreciate it, and I'm very honored and happy to have on my guest today, who is Matt Roberson. We met through LinkedIn, had a couple of conversations, and got to know each other a little bit. And I'm very happy and honored to have him on the podcast today. And I will say this: that some of the stuff that he'll bring has aspects of not only sort of leadership in a certain aspect of one aspect of aviation, but it'll also have some aspects that envision some strategic thinking and some strategic planning aspects of it. So we'll be looking at that, and it's not just purely academic; it's application and operational thinking on it. So I'm very happy to have Matt on the podcast today, and let me just introduce you to him. Matt, welcome to the podcast today, bud.
Hey, thank you, Randy. Pleasure to be here. It's my honor to be on the podcast with you today. We have met a couple times before. Randy's a great guy. Aviation's our common interest, and a little background on myself is I grew up in aviation. My dad, he had small Cessna airplanes as I was a kid. I was flying before I could even see over the dashboard in my diapers. So it was one of those
Yeah,
type of families. And then from there, I went on down to Auburn University, where I went to the flight program down there, and then I did
cool.
some flight instructing down there. Uh,
I've been amazed on LinkedIn at how many people show themselves as flight students at Auburn University. So that's cool.
yeah, I think Auburn's one of the top flight schools still in the country. There's tons of guys coming out of there going to the airlines, and yeah, you're right.
Hmm. Hmm.
I see a lot of it on LinkedIn too, as far as their background being from Auburn. So yeah, so flight instructed there a couple of years, teaching the new guys coming through, keeping us in the air and not upside down, kind of challenge. So that was kind of fun doing that. I like teaching and instructing. And then on from there, I went on to the airlines and what was then called ASA, which is Atlantic Southeast
Hmm.
Airlines.
Yeah.
And then they merged in with ExpressJet, and I flew there for 14 years. So that's my background in aviation as far as my career goes.
If you don't mind me just throwing something out just for interest only, you mentioned that you really liked teaching. Is there something that stands out in your mind as to kind of why you like teaching? I mean, I would say the same thing for you. Yeah. And
Yeah, you
is there
know,
one thing that stands out to you about it?
I don't know if it's just me or what it is, but I've always enjoyed just seeing somebody grasp a concept that maybe I'm teaching them. I would have other
Mm-hmm.
instructors that couldn't get a kid to solo or whatever. They just couldn't break through. They couldn't get through the flare, or they couldn't get through certain aspects of their
Mm-hmm.
landing or whatever it was. And I seemed to be the guy that they would send their students to get them over the hump. I don't know if it was just the way that I broke it down to them, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I really can't pinpoint the reason why I was kind of good at it, but I could see that I was getting through to some of the kids that others couldn't. So I
Cool.
found pride in that. That's just kind of a sense of accomplishment when you can get somebody to turn that the light bulb on in their
Uh,
head there. It's
That's
great.
leadership, man. That's
Yep.
leadership. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going. I just you said that, and I went, "Yeah, just ask about that." Cool.
Yeah, so during my career as an airline pilot, I always had kind of like an entrepreneurial spirit. I would read books as far as entrepreneurship and building startups. And I also got into some of the cryptocurrency stuff back in 2013, which has kind of led me into the startup that I'm doing now, which is called wingit.io.
Hmm.
And essentially, what me and one of my buddies from Auburn University came up with this idea where I guess I'll give a little context on my buddy too and where
Sure.
this came from. He works at aircraft parts store. It's his company that he built out of his garage down in Jacksonville, Florida, where he does parts and logistics. Now he's grown it into a massive, very successful company down in Jacksonville, where he buys and sells private jet parts, corporate jet
Cool.
parts, and buys and sells the aircraft. He goes all over the world buying and selling these airplanes. And so he's in business with all of the charter 135 operations, and he gives them the parts. He does the maintenance for them. And so one day he was talking to one of the major charter companies in the United States, and they were trying to break into kind of the crypto market, just so to speak, where they wanted to be able to accept cryptocurrency and things like that for their private jet flights.
Hmm.
And so we kind of were talking one day about it and how expensive it was on the front end to get into a membership to a charter jet membership. So those are like $100,000 down and $1,200-$1,500 a month. And
Hmm.
so we got to talking to this company, and they were open to letting us do sort of a pilot program where we would allow members to hold an NFT, which is a new technology. It's kind of like a digital currency just think of it as, I guess, the next generation of a membership model, so to
Hmm.
speak. And so they allowed us to do that. And so we started to look at the industry as a whole and see some of the problems they're running into, some of their pain points, and some of those were the payment issue. So with our app that we're starting to launch next month, it's going to have a portion where people can pay with crypto, but the membership itself also includes a way that the charter company can incentivize customers to take their empty leg or reposition legs in their fleet, because that's one of the big expenses of a charter company
Hmm.
is repositioning their jets all around. And um, that's one of the things the guy that worked for the charter company was telling me on the phone. Some of their biggest pain points was, they said 40 to 50% of our flights are, we take a customer from A to B, but now the jet's sitting there with no paying customer, so we have to reposition the jet over to a new place, and that's money right out of their pocket.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
mhm.
You got to burn fuel, but there's no passengers on to pay for the flight. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
like
true.
yeah, it's like one step forward, two steps back on their balance sheet.
Hmm.
And so what we have done within our app is kind of created a kind of like a social aspect to it, to where our members can go into the app, they can find people nearby them. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So if I had the app, I could pull it up. I could say, okay, I see 3 or 4 other guys in Atlanta that may be flying to New York next week. We can come together. We can share the cost of the jet, which is less expensive for the customer. But then when the flight gets up to New York, it gives the charter company the ability to ping and notify people on the other end to say, hey, take this jet out of New York to its next destination. And
Hmm.
so they lots of times will give those for discounts, just so they don't have to pay for that next reposition flight. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a social aspect of the booking, and it gives a way for the charter company to connect with the passengers and create more of it kind of reduces the bottlenecks in the supply chain of a charter jet fleet's
Yeah,
movement. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Eh, Let me ask you this: when you where do you see this as you look forward? Obviously, some of the benefit and some of the target that you're looking to do uh, deals with trying to minimize the not so much the cost, but the benefit for the clients who are actually flying the airplane, but also helping out, making it a mutual benefit with the passengers and with the operator and all that kind of stuff. What do you see just in your talking out there and just in your experiencing? What have you seen as perhaps the biggest struggle, or when you're talking to people about this as an option? What do you see? Uh, what do you kind of pick up from people that you think might be their biggest struggle on the idea?
Yeah. Well, the idea as a whole is kind of it's kind of like a two-part challenge for us where we're kind of building on a new technology, which is the crypto part of it. So to bring something to market like this, you really have to educate people on why this new technology is going to be the unlock that
Hmm.
you couldn't achieve before. And so getting the idea across to the person that's not familiar with crypto is a challenge for us, just to say, all right, the crypto payments are going to be an improvement over a credit card or a wire transfer. Credit cards
Hmm.
are 3-4% fees when you're paying, 15-20,000 for a private jet flight. That really adds up.
Yeah.
And then when the nature of a charter is more of an on demand, you want to book and go, and a wire transfer sometimes takes a long time to process, and so that kind of slows down some of the money transfer and then being able to book the flights, because as anybody knows in aviation, if if the weather's coming, you need to get out, or
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
sometimes you need to just go. And so
We,
if you're
we have been
waiting,
there before, haven't we?
of course, so if you're
Yeah.
waiting on payments, that's become an issue. When talking to the charters, I had one of the guys over there at the charter company says that, okay, the passengers quoted X number of dollars from A to B, but what if there is a you have to divert or you have to go around weather and it adds on 30 minutes,
The
45 minutes
cost.
to the
Yeah.
flight? Now they're having to go back to the customer and say, hey, we need this much more money because we went around a storm, and that's
Hmm.
been kind of an issue. So the way that we're kind of tackling that problem is we're going to have, when people deposit their money into the account, it's going to be an escrow based. It's going to have an escrow function within our app, to where the money kind of, when the aircraft touches down, you can take the ACARS data, or the data off the wheels up, the wheels down, exactly down to the minute, and so then you can calculate the expense at that point and take the money from the escrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of a it's kind of a new thing. It's an ambitious goal, that we're trying to bring forth. But aviation and the FAA and how slow they are to bring new technologies around. It's something that we're kind of being met a little bit of headwind there, but I think we're gonna make it.
And it's interesting with what you said just about a leadership and a strategic thinking mindset, because there is, when you're talking about something that's brand new that a lot of people have not seen before, or maybe don't have the knowledge about it, like you're implying correctly, there is a time when you just got to build the foundation, build the awareness, and this is what a lot of things, and I think you're kind of hitting this nail on the head, if you will. Yeah, I think you and I have chatted before, and I mentioned this just as a friend one time. And I said, when you're talking about sales, sometimes it's not just about me convincing you to give me money. It's about me connecting with what you wanting, with what you're trying to do, and
Hmm.
coming alongside of you and everything. And that's kind of what you're implying. There's a little bit of a process of being able to do that. And
Hmm.
that's kind of sounds like that's kind of the part of where you're at right now. And that, you have my compliments for recognizing that part of your goal.
Yeah, and one of the things too, I wanted to touch on a little bit, and this
Yeah,
is
go
one of
ahead.
the educational things that I kind of have to bring across to most people, and it's the comparison between a commercial operation and a charter operation. So if everybody's more familiar with the commercial operation and how they run through the hub and spoke route system, right?
Hmm.
So I'm in Atlanta, it's a big hub. All the commercial airlines run in and out of Atlanta. The passengers know to go to the hub. Maintenance says at the hub, the fuel, catering, all of that. So
Hmm.
the supply chain in a commercial airline, in and out, you got passengers, they move lots of passengers, make lots of revenue. But a 135 charter operation is on demand, and it is not through a hub and spoke. It is from point A to point Z. I mean, there's no connecting of the supply chain, so to speak. So, with what we're trying to do is incorporate the passenger into the mix. So, it's not just the charter operation running their business over here and the passengers are separate. we're
Hmm.
trying to create kind of a symbiotic relationship between them, so the passengers know, all right, the jet's over here now. Let's help the charter out and move the jet and take the
Hmm.
empty leg. So it's kind of like the passengers can get a cheaper flight for taking the empty leg from the charter. So win-win on both sides. So that's kind of the thought behind it. And it's
Hmm.
usually when I explain it that way, people are like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. It's more of a centralized service through the commercial airlines and decentralized with the charter. So that's kind of the big difference people kind of get.
And I tell you, you have my compliments. Just one of the things that I sort of picked up on with what you just said, it's interesting when you talk about somebody who may be talking to three prospects for his company. And if I go to each one and I'm just trying to convince them, that's not overly effective sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
if there's a sense where all four of us start to kind of sense ourselves as a team helping each other out, boy, inside you can kind of go, wow, yeah, this is different, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
and that's kind of the picture, if you will, that I sort of got from you in the way you described that.
Yeah, it's more of a proactive plan. Like the customer could go in and put if they have to travel, if they're the type of maybe a business person that needs
Hmm.
this service, they need to be efficient with their time. They need to get to places, and they just don't have time to go through commercial. There are people out there. It's a niche market, but if they go ahead and put on their schedule, pre-plan, I need to go New York on Wednesday, I need Chicago on the next Tuesday or whatever. You go ahead and put that out there. Our flight board within our app will show anybody that's wanting to book can look on there and say, okay, this guy's going there on that day. They're going there on that day. I can jump on these flights with these people, share them. And it also has like an environmental impact too. If you're consolidating more people onto a private jet, then you're not releasing as much carbon emissions for one person on a jet going to a place. Now you can fill the jet up and not take as many of these private jets. So that's
Yeah.
one of the big hot button topics in the media is the celebrities taking their jet for 15-minute flight over here, and it's eco terrorists or whatever they want to call them. So we're kind of thinking about it through that lens as well as with the environment at mind. So
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I tell you, it's very interesting with what you're describing there, and it's very, I think, professional in kind of the way you're thinking about it, on that. I know we're getting sort of coming close to the end of our time here for just another few minutes. Let me just allow you the opportunity, because it all sounds like a really good idea. And like I said, you have my compliments for the way that you're sort of thinking about it in terms
mhm,
of a vision and sort of a basic strategy on how you need to get there. It
mhm,
certainly is customer and prospect valued, and also that everybody that would be a part of it,
mhm,
kind of thing. That's you have my compliments on that. But let me just give you a couple of minutes and just share anything you want looking forward.
mhm.
What do you think? Is there anything that maybe you need to kind of think about, in what you need to do going forward that you haven't done yet, or just anything you want to pass on about it, to the listeners? We've got a few minutes here. Just
Sure.
share anything you'd like.
Yeah, so our app is about to be released in beta, and the main thing that we need is just users of the app to beta test the app and to be able to jump in there, go through the user flow, create shared flights. And so what we're going to do is my partner, co-founder, he has bought us we've got a jet now. We got a Premier 1A, it's an 8-seat jet, and once the app is launched, we're going to create a kind of like a contest type of thing where whoever downloads the app shares it with their friends or family and creates a shared flight. We're going to award some of these people a one-way trip to somewhere in the United States
Cool.
on our jet. Just kind of like we're going to give that back to our community as an award for helping us with our beta app, just just to prove the concept, show that people can get in there, use it, they can share, and they will see a benefit in that. So it's kind of like we're going to create the charter. We're going to simulate the charter's experience. We're going to try to be the charter with our jet,
Hmm.
use our app. And so then once we prove that people, yeah, will get in there and they will share and they find it useful, then we can take the app to these charter companies and license it to them, and and hopefully it can benefit them, make their process and operating costs go down and be more efficient for the charter. So that's the end goal. That's what we're trying to do. And what I would say for any of the listeners is, my website is wingit.io, and it's just right now it's just sign up with your email, and we're going to send out information to people of how they can get beta access.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, it looks good. I appreciate you doing it, Matt. I think people were able to get your website and kind of hear what you were saying there. It's a great as far as just leadership vision and going forward in the future and things like that. So, yeah, my compliments. I know you and I'll be chatting again as friends and all that. And I'll look forward to seeing you the next time we meet. And if there's anything else you'd like to share before we sign off, feel free to do that.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
Take care now.
All right.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.